Well, after the 21-day lockdown comes into effect tomorrow at midnight, all South Africans will be required to stay home, except for a few exceptions. Some people will be working from home. So how do you prove that you are actually working, you are productive, and not lazing about in your PJs? And how do managers monitor this? Well, there's an app that can track if you are working or not, developed by Ntiyiso Consulting. Joining me now is Alex Mabunda of Ntiyiso Consulting. Alex, good morning, and thank you very much for your time. I guess it's going to be very important to be able to know that people that are working from home for any company are in fact productive, especially those who are regarded as non-essential employees.
Yes, Dan, and greetings to ENCA listeners. It is true that, as businesses, especially those indeed, that are not offering essential services, there's always a question to say, should people stay at home and just do nothing, or some form of work can continue? And certainly there are ways indeed that people can continue to work. In 2020, we have lots of technologies, that allows us to connect online. We've got, such applications, for example, such as Zoom, where we can have meetings. We have virtual private networks where we can securely log into servers and still be able to access key business applications. So, indeed, there's no reason why, people shouldn't be finding ways and means by which they can still continue work. I think the greatest question that is sitting in every employer's mind is, when I say people must work from home, how do I monitor them? And that's where we come in to say that there are also technologies that you would ordinarily use, not only when people are working from home, but also when people are working on-prem, especially people who work with, computers, people who sit behind the screens and sometimes, to show what they're doing. There are ways and means to make sure that people don't just sit there and play Solitaire or Candy Crush or...
So you shouldn't just... Mabunda, the employer shouldn't just rely on your word, but they should also, I guess, be tracking the output. Absolutely.
And the output is not, as I say, just a function of how long was a person logged into their computer. There are clever algorithms, that can track exactly what sort of activity people engage into. Of course, that is one part of the story. You still need to add or factor in, other issues, such as indeed output, because it's not enough to say I was sitting behind my screen for 8 hours and you can't show anything for it.
Now, what kind of tools do you know of and that exists, like apps? I mean, we live in the app world nowadays.
Yes, so we have a tool called Time Monitor, and that tool is designed exactly to do that. It's able to see when did you log in, when did you log out, which specific apps or applications have you been using, and it's got some intelligence behind it, to determine which ones would make you to be productive and which ones would amount to you just, maybe surfing the net, or just being on Facebook and those kind of applications. So it has an intelligent way, but most importantly, it's able to provide, that intelligence to relevant people and open up some sort of a dialogue, understanding that the issues of productivity are much more complex than just, knowing what deaf people been doing. There are other things that you still need to think about, whether it's the quality of work that's being produced. But safe is to say that this time of emergency, I think what is top of mind for most of us is really, to say that people mustn't just go jogging in the morning and, just log in and go jogging and come back and claim a full 8 hours. We really need to see. But I think then what's also important with this is that this crisis, and we say we never want to waste a good crisis, is teaching us to start thinking deeply about how best to measure productivity, to manage productivity, even beyond the crisis. So I think for most people, it's advisable that people or companies start to embark, into testing these applications so that even beyond the crisis, we have a much more better way of managing, productivity, seeing that South Africa is seen as, and that's true, as one of the most least productive workforce in the world, and that obviously has a negative impact on our economy. So hopefully, coming out of this crisis, we come out a better, working people.
Thank you very much, CEO there of Ndiso Consulting, Alex Mabunda. Now, still